In the mid-2000s, Nickelodeon experimented with different genres of shows, including action cartoons. Of those shows came the widely remembered and highly acclaimed My Life as a Teenage Robot. With its fun action, unique art style, and enjoyable premise, this cartoon managed to run for 3 seasons on Nickelodeon and Nicktoons Network. Although perhaps canceled prematurely, it still holds plenty of fans to this day. But of all the characters, both robot and human, which are the most pure and which are the most evil? Yo, I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and this is My Life as a Teenage Robot, Good to Evil.
Every electronic mind has something to offer.
As always, we'll be starting with our most pure and most heroic characters. These guys are the good. Who better to start off this list than with the series protagonist and hero, XJ9, also known as Jenny. Jenny was created for the sole purpose of protecting the Earth from danger, from giant monsters and crazy villains to natural disasters and killer asteroids. Jenny does her job almost perfectly.
The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Though there are times where she wishes she could be a normal teenager, she still cares about her job as a superhero and will always do whatever it takes to save the day, even if it means swallowing her pride or sacrificing her social life. When humans frustrate her or discriminate against her, she never tries to do them any harm, despite having more than enough power to do so. Though she is a robot and being a hero is in her programming, we feel that Jenny shows enough sentience and independence that her choices are her own and not ones made by code, especially when you take in the fact that she isn't always perfect. In the episode Girl of Steel, Jenny resorts to stealing an expensive music player, disguising herself as Ruby Rocket so that she doesn't ruin her reputation. She comes clean in the end to prevent her mother from taking the blame.
All I ever wanted was to fit in, to be one of you.
Her occasional self-consciousness can sometimes blind her, and she also seems to have a temper when pushed too far, like when Sheldon refused to give her space, or when kindergartners wouldn't stop picking on her. But even after lashing out, she's always apologetic, and will at least try to make things right. And she also sometimes struggles with collateral damage. Even with her faults, Jenny can easily be seen as the most noble, kind, and heroic person in this show. Getting our silver medal of good is the princess of Cluster Prime, Vega. As the daughter of the show's main antagonist, Queen Vexus, you would think Vega would be just as evil as her mother. Thankfully, this isn't the case. When Jenny first meets Vega, she's friendly to Jenny. They hang out, bond, and become good friends. When she finds out that Jenny is the mysterious hero that's been saving Cluster Prime citizens, Vega is grateful and is even willing to help her in the final battle against her mother, after it's revealed to her that Vexus was nothing but a liar.
We have been betrayed and lied to by our leaders.
In the end, Vega liberates her planet and becomes its new queen. As far as we can tell, Vega doesn't seem to have many flaws, other than previously being oblivious to her mother's evilness. Given that we only see her in one episode, we have no idea how she does as a queen afterwards, so we don't feel it's fair to give her the top spot. And third is Jenny's creator and mother, Dr. Nora Wakeman. Being a scientist, many of Nora's inventions come from her desire to make the world a better and safer place. She used to be a member of Skyway Patrol and is always willing to fight when the people she loves are in danger. As a mother, she was originally pretty strict, wanting Jenny to focus on her superhero duties instead of having fun.
Never let me do anything but save the Earth.
As the show went on, however, Nora warmed up to the idea and allowed Jenny to be as much of a normal teen as she could be, showing how much she loved and cared for Jenny. She sees Jenny as a daughter and not just a tool or robot to be used. But like any other mom, she can be embarrassing and overbearing. You can't dock her too many points for being motherly, though. As for actual faults, it's worth noting that while she treats Jenny fairly and gives her the freedom to do whatever she wants within reason, there are 8 other XJ units down in the basement that she was willing to let rust. Even after Jenny's insistence at their family, we rarely see the other sisters activated, simply because Nora viewed them as flawed prototypes that would only be a hassle to have around. Other inventions or experiments of hers, such as Armageddroid, Vladimir, and Little Acorn, have also caused trouble. However, these have always been mistakes, and she's never built anything dangerous or evil on purpose.
Well, no one said animating the inanimate was going to be easy.
While maybe not the most social, Nora's morality and her status as a good mother do more than enough to put her in our top 3. Melody Locus is next on our list. Melody is a somewhat tragic character, being both the daughter and creation of the evil scientist Dr. Locus. We learn at the end of her debut episode that she's actually an android that simply looks like a human. She uses her robot abilities to assist Brad, making sure he and Jenny are able to escape safely. Like Jenny, Melody wants to be a normal girl, despite the admittedly horrifying robot parts underneath. She's shy but kind, and eager to hang out with Brad after she runs away from home.
What brings you to town? You're looking at him.
She also disapproves of her father's evil schemes, even when they're beneficial to her. As sweet as she is, she's still a robot. After Jenny provokes her, she reveals her true form and, in a fit of rage, nearly attacks her. She only stops when she sees how afraid everyone is. After that, she leaves and is never seen in the series again. While she didn't do enough good to be put in a higher spot, we still can't deny that she's good at her core and truly deserves to have a normal and peaceful life. Next is Brad, the first friend that Jenny ever made. It only makes sense that someone as adventurous as Brad would end up being the perfect best friend for a girl like Jenny. Unlike Jenny, he doesn't care as much about being popular and would rather just have fun and do cool stuff. He admires Jenny for being a hero, and when she's confused about something in human society, he'll try to explain it.
It takes pictures, it's a phone, a fan, a fax.
However, it could be said that he enjoys being a hero a bit too much. He'll often get frustrated and annoyed if he's forced to sit on the sidelines, and can be stubborn as well as bumbling. Even when things get dangerous or when Jenny tells him not to interfere, he'll still try to help out. This could be seen as either brave or stupid, depending on who you ask. He's a great ally, and probably one of the most noble human characters in the series, next to Nora. His positive can-do attitude and his loyalty to Jenny keep him squarely in the good tier. YK9, or Kenny, is simply put a good boy. Though he may look like a robot boy, he tends to act more like a dog, hence the K9 part of his name. He isn't much of a hero, but he is extremely friendly. He's also happy to help, like when he made pizza during his and Jenny's first date when the oven at Mesmer's broke. Though his more dog-like tendencies make him strange, it isn't hard to see why he would be so popular, thanks to both his kindness and his cool robot abilities.
Kenny's the greatest!
But as we said, compared to Jenny, he doesn't really save the day too often. And because he's part dog, he's easily distracted by things like strange smells and squirrels or cats, even wrecking Mesmer's when he chased a disguised Sheldon around just because he looked like a cat. Though we love dogs and acknowledge that Kenny can't really help his programming, his lack of heroic deeds prevent him from being placed any higher. Next, we have Wisteria Wakeman, as well as Wisteria's son, Glenn. Unlike her sister, who was always interested in technology, Wisteria is more of a hippie and focuses on new ageism and plant life. She even created Glenn, her plant monster son, in a similar way to how Nora created Jenny. Although it takes her time to accept Jenny as family, Wisteria ultimately does see Jenny as her niece. As for Glenn, he and Jenny immediately consider each other cousins. Glenn is also kind and generous, even if he's not too bright. We see him and Jenny working together as they try to get their moms to start fighting. From trying to get them to spend time with each other, to pretending they're getting attacked by a monster, to even having a fake fight with each other.
I'm staging a non-violent intervention.
Like her sister, Wisteria can be pretty stubborn in her beliefs, but she's ultimately a caring person, with her and Nora apologizing to each other. And although it doesn't completely work, they try to get along for the sake of their kids. Up next is Samurai Vac. And yeah, you heard that right, Vac as in vacuum. Many teenage robot fans may not even remember this episode since it never aired on the main Nickelodeon channel. Still, we want to give Vac credit where it's due. Samurai Vac is a robot who wants to be a hero.
You must answer for your actions!
He tries to defeat a chimera, but doesn't have the power to do so. Instead, Jenny defeats it, leaving Vac feeling dishonored. It took him a while, but Vac eventually saved the day when the chimeras returned, using his vacuum abilities to his benefit. Being such a minor character, we can't say a ton about him as a person, but saving the day definitely puts him in the good tier. Next is Brad's younger brother, Tuck. Originally, Tuck was afraid of Jenny and didn't really trust her. After getting to know her and seeing her in action, however, he admired her and became one of her closest friends.
She totally wasted that rock!
Being much younger than Brad, he can be more annoying as well as more mischievous. One time, he took advantage of his friendship with Jenny, constantly calling her to show off her abilities to his friends. He also carelessly causes Jenny to lose half of her battery, leading her to nearly run out of power on a deserted island. Though sometimes a troublemaker, he can still be well-meaning and is never malicious. Instead, it's more like he doesn't always think things through. He's just a kid, so we're gonna cut him some slack. Rounding out the good list, we have Sheldon. Sheldon is best known for his huge crush on Jenny. As such, he's always eager to do whatever she needs him to do, always wanting to help in the hopes of impressing her or winning her affections. In the Christmas special, he's the only one who doesn't view Jenny as evil, after Todd Sweeney forces her to wreck holidays.
You really don't know what's going on, do you?
Being an inventor himself, his gadgets have always helped her, with his alternate persona, the Silver Shell, being seen as a hero by people like Tuck. So what puts him this low on our good tier? Ultimately, his most well-known trait is also arguably his worst. His crush on Jenny can sometimes be seen as stalkerish and pretty creepy. He even buys a Jenny toy so he can pretend that he's dating her. His jealous side is also pretty ugly. He sabotaged Jenny's second date with Kenny, and while in his silver shell armor, acts like a jerk in the hopes of turning Jenny off the idea of dating other robots. All this just makes Sheldon come off as one of those quote-unquote nice guys. Thankfully, his kind side and willingness to always believe in Jenny no matter what manages to overshadow his slightly more entitled and creepy side. And while there is room for improvement, we still feel that he's done just enough to get ranked in the good tier. That does it for our good characters. Now it's on to the gray area. Characters that may not be evil, but aren't the most noble either. At the top of this section, we have XJ1 through XJ8, Jenny's sisters. While each of them have the means to be a hero, each of them are also flawed, since they were all prototypes of what would eventually be XJ9, and thus weren't meant to actually be used. They don't come out to fight too often. When they first appear, they were a nuisance for both Jenny and the townsfolk due to their many flaws. While some, like XJ1's crying or XJ5's motor mouth, are just annoying, other flaws like XJ2's hiccups or XJ8's seriousness can be dangerous. The episode Turncoats also shows how dangerous the other XJs can be, after the villain Dr. Locust takes control of them.
You will never stop until Mom is destroyed.
It's hard to completely blame the XJs, however, since they were most likely just following their programming, and it's not like Nora ever tried to fix any of their most notable flaws. They also managed to come together and help Jenny when she needs them to, so that certainly counts for something. Following them, we have the robots from Wisley World. Being made for working and entertaining at the Wisley World theme park, the Wisley robots are simple-minded. All they care about is doing their assigned task. While Jenny sees their work as demeaning and wants to give them freedom, the robots are completely lost outside of their programming.
It's too big outside.
Even when they have the freedom to do what they want, they still decide to follow their prime directive by any means necessary, which can come off as harassment or an annoyance. Jenny eventually sends them to Mars, where they can be free to build their own society without bothering anyone. Well, without bothering any humans at least. They still end up annoying some Martians. Whoopsie-daisy. Nevertheless, you can't call robots, even the most bothersome ones, bad guys, just for following their programming, so we feel they fit in the gray area. Next is Nora's rival, Dr. Phoenix Mog. Though just as smart as Nora, he can definitely be more jerkish, often poking fun at Nora and trying to get the one-up on her. He even says it's amusing that Jenny calls Nora Mom, making Nora feel self-conscious and Jenny angry.
Well, let him talk about me that way?
He's snide, condescending, and competitive, being more than willing to steal Nora's ideas and claim they were his own. The biggest example of this is Kenny, who looks a lot like Jenny despite having different abilities and a dog-like personality. Speaking of his son/pet, he doesn't treat Kenny with as much respect as Nora treats Jenny, even having him sleep on a dog bed. But he cares about Kenny and is genuinely worried when he goes missing. He may be a jerk, but compared to some of the other scientists we see, he's still far from villainous. Orion and Squish from Teen Team are next. For those of you wondering about the third member of Teen Team, don't worry, we'll get to her in a second. Anyway, the amazing Orion and the stupendous Squish are teen superheroes. According to them, each member of Teen Team comes from a planet where they felt like an outcast. As such, they left their homes and decided to travel throughout space, saving the day before going off to the next planet. Because they're always on the go, they don't form attachments to the people they save, making it easy for them to refuse a call if they don't feel like answering it.
We just don't fit in with regular humans. It never works out.
This was the case after Tadpolezilla, a monster they defeated earlier, came back and started attacking humans in the Goop Zone theme park. It wasn't a matter of having disdain towards humans, they just didn't care and wanted to leave so they could explore the next planet. While not malicious, they come off as self-absorbed. We don't hear what happens to Orion and Squish after the teen team disbands, but the fact that they were both willing to be heroes and help out other planets, even if it was just temporary, keeps them out of the bad tier. They just don't do enough to be put in the good tier either. The Skyway Patrol can be both the heroes and the antagonist, depending on who you ask. Formed during the First Intergalactic War, the Skyway Patrol was meant to protect the Earth from future alien threats.
Take them away, boys. Hop, hop, hop.
While they are meant to be a force for good, they sometimes feel more like a hindrance than actual allies. They usually harass Jenny for doing her and their job, viewing her being a superhero as shenanigans.
We will not tolerate the interference of robotic rookies.
Their organization also focuses on a ton of paperwork, which prevents them from being more effective as a protective force. Mostly, they're just kind of a nuisance to deal with. Thankfully, while they aren't very good allies, they still try to protect the people of Earth and aren't corrupt or malicious, so they fit well in the gray area. Up next is the tiny toy bot, Kilgore.
I am the destroyer of worlds.
Similar to Samurai Vac, Kilgore is a tiny robot with big goals. But rather than being a hero, he wants to be a villain in the hopes of earning respect from the residents of the robot planet Cluster Prime and destroying all humans. Kilgore repeatedly tries to capture and defeat Jenny, but due to his size and lack of powers, he's annoying. Other kids, however, love Kilgore because he's so cute, which just makes him hate them even more. Not even the cluster making fun of him and throwing away his wind-up key can make Kilgore want to switch sides. It should also be noted that while he is powerless, he managed to rebuild Armageddroid, a much bigger threat. Once he realized how dangerous Armageddroid was, Kilgore helped Jenny defeat him, but refused to stay her ally.
You'll be allowed to fulfill my destiny!
Although he insists that he's evil, we can't put him in the bad to evil category since he's more misguided than actually evil, and is still harmless. Although she had the chance to be a true hero, Misty certainly fell short of that title. At first, she seemed like a nice girl. She was the only one from Teen Team to help Jenny and Brad defeat Tadpolezilla, while her teammates couldn't bring themselves to care and promised that she would visit Earth again. When Misty returned, she and Jenny were getting along until Misty goes too far with her pranks against the Crust Cousins, something Jenny disapproves of.
You make their worst fears come true.
While some may say that people like the Crust Cousins deserve to be pranked, Misty's pranks end up crossing the line from funny to sadistic. After she and Jenny have a falling out, Misty uses her powers to become a hero for hire. She only agrees to be a hero when people pay her to do it. And when she gets paid to save the day, she's reckless and doesn't care about collateral damage. She was even willing to use a bus full of kids as a weapon against a monster. When tensions between them hit their peak, Jenny and Misty duke it out and Jenny is nearly destroyed.
This is where it ends, Robot Girl.
But when she reminds Misty of their former friendship, Misty actually shows mercy, but insists that the only reason why she isn't destroying Jenny is because no one is paying her to do it. While she fell hard from her status as a hero, we still feel that there's just barely enough good in her that keeps her from being a total villain. Finally, we have the defender turned terror, Armageddroid. Created by Nora, he was meant to be Earth's most powerful protector against alien threats. Unfortunately, things went horribly wrong with his programming.
My purpose is noble. My mission is pure.
Although his prime directive was to destroy all alien weaponry, Armageddroid takes this a step further and decided to destroy every weapon that he considers a threat, whether it's being used by friend or foe. He'll also attack anyone who gets in the way of his mission, and despite claiming that he's fighting for peace, Armageddroid can be violent and hostile and can't be reasoned with. But as destructive as Armageddroid can be, he's more of an example of a robot taking their programming too far. And the two times that he's defeated, it's done using trickery. First, when Jenny tricks him into ingesting a bomb, and then when Jenny convinces him that he is a weapon. With those characters out of the way, it's time to rank this show's villains. From mean and destructive to cruel and nasty, these are the bad to evil characters. First on our list is Lil Acorn, Nora's former puppet. Originally, Lil Acorn just seemed like a happy little puppet, always wanting to dance and sing for a crowd. But as he and Nora continued to perform, Lil Acorn became abusive as his ego and love of the spotlight grew. When he left to pursue a solo career, the audience that once loved him now saw him as creepy and chased him into the woods, where he rotted away for years. When he returned, Lil Acorn had his sights set on Jenny and wanted to force her into marriage.
You will be mine!
Although not very powerful, his ability to sing annoying songs as a means of torture is certainly evil, as was his plot to try and force Jenny to be his bride. When he's defeated and dumped back into the woods, Jenny takes pity on him and gives him Tuck's sock puppet as a bride instead. This seems to work for Lil Acorn, and he goes back to being happy now that he's no longer alone, and we never see him attack anyone again. We put him pretty low on the bad tier, even if we can't excuse the things he did out of loneliness. Next is Vladimir, Nora's former pet rat. Once named Mr. Scruffles, Nora's experiments on him not only granted him intelligence, but also bitterness. In his debut episode, he and his army of rats took over Jenny's body in the hopes of getting their revenge against Nora.
Disable the central wiring system.
When Vladimir returned, he teamed up with several C-tier villains. Vladimir hates humans, especially Nora, and if he actually had real power, there's a chance he could be a serious threat. But he's weak and powerless, with not even his superintelligence giving him much of an edge. He is a rat, which makes him easy to defeat. As for his evilness, he's petty, all things considered. Given that he's so blinded by revenge, his goals and schemes don't go far beyond that. For all those reasons, we have to put him pretty low on our list. Next, we have the Space Bikers. Like most biker gangs, they enjoy partying and riding their bikes across space. It's actually how they let off steam, since they work at a school on their home planet during the day. Or at least they used to, before the residents of their home saw their biker personas.
There's no place for biker scum on our planet!
Tough, crude, and mischievous, they can cause a lot of collateral damage, and hate Jenny for always trying to interfere with their fun. They even turned her into a motorcycle once. There was also the episode where they nearly forced Brad into marrying one of their members. And while Brad was okay with this for a while, since he liked the idea of having an exciting marriage, they tried to eat him when he changed his mind, as is tradition on their planet. While antagonistic and destructive, they aren't looking to take over Earth like the Cluster, but instead just want to be rowdy and free on their nights off. As their former jobs at a school showed, they do have a soft side, even if it's rarely seen. While not the worst, they're still bad enough to earn a spot on this list. From the Christmas special, we have Todd Sweeney. Todd is spoiled yet lonely, abandoned by his parents and taking his feelings from that out on everyone else. Instead of asking Santa for toys, he asks for weapons and power. And when Jenny offers herself as Todd's gift in an attempt to make him happy, Todd betrays her.
You must do my every bidding.
He brainwashes her and orders her to not only ruin Christmas, but every other holiday. These actions cause the rest of the city, even Jenny's friends and family, to think she's a total menace. Honestly, the emotional distress he causes Jenny through this is more than enough to put him on any naughty list. The fact that he then orders Jenny to destroy Santa, thus ruining Christmas forever, is the icing on this Christmas cake. However, his evil deeds come from a place of loneliness rather than malice. While this doesn't excuse what he did, we see from the end of the episode that Todd, thankfully, wasn't too far gone. After being generous and seeing the true meaning of Christmas, Todd turns his life around, becoming happy and good.
Some say his heart grew 3 sizes that day.
We still can't forgive him for all he did to Jenny and his attempts to kill Santa, but his happy ending stops him from being put any lower. They may only be teens, but the Crust Cousins are certainly villainous. They're the most popular girls in school, known for their exorbitant wealth and high fashion outfits. When we first meet them, they're typical caddy girls who make fun of Jenny for being a robot. They cross a line when they briefly sabotage her laser in the hopes of getting her expelled, causing Jenny to accidentally start a fire. They're actually happy that the school's getting burned down so they can get out of chemistry class. That is, until they realize they're in danger too.
But we'll get out of chemistry class forever!
robot.
Now, after Jenny saves them, they stand up for her. But once it's revealed that they started the fire, they vow revenge and remain antagonists for the rest of the show. They'll often invite Jenny to parties or sleepovers in the hopes that she'll make a fool out of herself, and they're always the first to tease her or mess with her. The most powerful we see them is when they acquire superpower crystals that they then make outfits out of. Then, they fight Jenny and taunt her with their new powers.
What is it, sugar? You feeling okay?
It should be noted that the only time we ever see them and Jenny on the same side, they help Jenny defeat Vexus, but only so they can remain the most popular girls in school. So, when they're at their best, they're still selfish and self-absorbed. Dr. Locus is probably the most evil scientist in the show. He's not only formidable, but also extremely dangerous. When it comes to his robot daughter, Melody, he only focuses on her powers and wanting her to be just as powerful and advanced as Jenny, instead of respecting her feelings.
I can't let you leave now that you know my secrets.
With this genius, he was also able to manipulate and control any robot he wanted by using a device he created. He was able to completely control the XJs, and all for the sake of having power. While he only showed up twice in the show, the impact he had on other characters earns him a few points. Moving into our top 3 baddies, up next is the electric vampire creature, Gigawatt. Gigawatt is an alien that lives off of pure energy and electricity. All he cares about is his hunger. He throws Jenny's hometown into the ultimate blackout and threatens to drain the earth of all of its electricity, rendering all electronics and machines that rely on this power useless.
My midnight snack has arrived.
This is already bad, but it gets worse with the implications. Just think about how many life-saving machines we depend on each day, and how many people could be in serious danger if those machines stopped running. It's also implied that Gigawatt has done this to several other planets before coming to Earth. While hunger is just a natural function and isn't good or evil, his disregard for others and his vampiric tendencies are certainly evil. In second place, we have Smitus. He's the main commander of Cluster Prime, and through his missions, he often clashes with Jenny and threatens humans. He's also a powerful and formidable fighter, and manages to occasionally get the upper hand over Jenny in some of their fights. Ultimately, his main goal is to assimilate Jenny into the cluster by any means necessary, usually by force. In one episode, he temporarily takes control of Jenny, using her as a means to power an even bigger and much more destructive robot, and immediately orders her to destroy Nora before destroying her hometown.
Say goodnight, Mommy.
He's also loyal to his queen and to the cluster, and will do whatever he can to succeed in his mission. Cruel and callous. The only reason we're giving him second is because his boss is much worse. Taking the gold is none other than Queen Vexus, the series' main antagonist. Out of all the villains, Vexus is not only the more recurring, but also the most threatening. She's both strong and cunning, and is often using trickery, sabotage, and sneak attacks to fight, just as often as she uses her own physical strength. We've seen her attach a nanobot to Jenny in the hopes of making her a hideous monster. Later on, she infiltrates a robot convention and brainwashes all the bots, forcing them against their creators, and even threatening Nora.
You are about to become one of my loyal subjects.
She also manipulates Sheldon into showing her Jenny's master blueprints, allowing her to briefly gain the upper hand. Of course, all these evil deeds pale in comparison to her main goal of total robot domination. Although she hates humans the most and wants to enslave mankind, she's also willing to weaken her own people on Cluster Prime, hiding away the gold computer chips that would allow ordinary robots to transform and be just as powerful as Jenny. This is ultimately her downfall, but even after Vexus is kicked off the throne, she still vows revenge.
You haven't seen the last of me.
Even if she no longer has her planet, she still wants nothing more than to destroy her greatest enemy once and for all. For all these reasons, we can think of no one more deserving for this title of Most Evil. Alright guys, but what do you think? Let us know which My Life as a Teenage Robot characters you think are the most good and evil. Don't forget to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters on your favorite cartoons, shows, and movies. But most importantly, stay wicked.